Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thanks for joining. My name is Alina Anton, and I work at EPSO. I'm a Present Information Officer here in the Outreach and Communication Unit. And today I'm joined by my colleague, Koen HENDRIX, whom you already know by now, of course, from the other live webinars that we've organized. And today we are here to share some important updates about the AD5 Graduates competition, particularly about the testing procedure. Now, many of you have already read the news because we published news about these changes on our website, on our social media channels, and so on. But we know that many of you follow this topic and you have many questions. So this is why we organized this webinar to clarify a little bit what's happening, what changes, what stays the same, and so on. And of course, we organized this webinar to also hear from you. So feel free to drop your questions in the comment section throughout the session. And after we explain a bit what's happening, towards the end of the session, we will try to answer as many questions as possible. We only have 20 minutes. So Koen, what you say, let's dive straight in, right?
Exactly. Thanks a lot, Alina, for this nice introduction, and welcome everybody again to this talk about the changes to this AD5 graduate competition. As Alina said, you must have heard about it on Reels, on posts, on the website. There's been an amendment that has been published, an amendment to the notice of competition. Again, a very important document for you to read if you haven't done so already. So basically what the big difference is with normal competitions is that the testing will be split over 2 days. If ever you've taken part in another competition done by EPSO, usually we test all, or the candidates sit all tests in one single day, in one single session, if you like. But this time, given the vast numbers of applicants, which I don't have to remind you is 175,000 people, we have to change our way of operations a bit, and we will organize these testing over 2 separate days. The first day will take place over the months of October or November. And the second day will take place in the first half of 2027. As soon as possible, as soon as we can, we will organize the second day of testing. Everybody who has applied will be invited to this first day of testing several weeks prior to the testing date.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Now, basically, the news is that instead of taking the test in one sitting, you will take the test in 2 sittings. So the content of the tests will stay the same. Nothing else changes. It's only the way we organize the testing procedure. So now let's start with the beginning. Can you tell us more about the first part of the test?
Yeah,
How will
exactly.
it be organized, the test, and so on?
Exactly. So this day one, this testing day one, is a day where all candidates will sit their reasoning skills tests. So we test verbal, numerical, and abstract reasoning on day one. Okay. Now, this day one is not the same day for all candidates. As said, we have 175,000 to test. So we cannot test everybody on the same day during the same slot. So there will be a testing window during which all these candidates will sit their first day. Again, in the invitation letter, you will be given a testing day and a testing time slot. You cannot change this. So this will be attributed to you. You cannot change this. Of course, if you face force majeure or specific conditions, you can try and get a rebooking, but usually for everybody, the day and time is fixed. Basically, you will have about 65 minutes during which you sit these tests. If you've seen the NOC, you will know that you will sit the verbal reasoning test in 35 minutes. You will sit your numerical reasoning test in 20 minutes, and you will take your abstract reasoning test in 10 minutes. So together, in 65 minutes, you will have been taken all your tests, and then your day one is over.
Okay, thank you for that. So one very, very important thing to keep in mind, the testing date cannot be rescheduled. I think it's worth repeating this. Now, in terms of progression, what do candidates need to achieve to get to the second part? Sorry.
Exactly. So after day one, what happens is we start scoring, right? Everybody will be notified of their result. So everybody will receive the points they scored on verbal, numerical, and abstract reasoning. Now, to progress to day two, you just need to meet the pass mark of 10 out of 20 for verbal reasoning and the combined pass mark of 10 out of 20 for numerical and abstract reasoning combined, as said. So if you reach this threshold, you're good to be invited to day 2. If you fail in one of these both thresholds, then of course you're out and you will be notified that your competition for this one is over. So everybody who meets the threshold will be invited to day 2. Now, don't expect your result the day after you sit your tests. First of all, there's a testing window of several days to test everybody. Even right after this testing window, we will not yet be able to send you the results because some people may have faced issues, might need to be rebooked or rescheduled, might be offered a second chance to sit these tests. This is what we call contingency testing. There will be a contingency testing scheduled several weeks after the first day of testing. And then there might sometimes be the necessity to set a second day of contingency testing. So we can advance quite some weeks into the future before we are able to score everybody and send out the results to everybody. Don't write to us about this. You will receive your results. This may take a couple of weeks, but you will be notified, of course, of your result, whether you're failed or not. And I said again, everybody who passes the threshold is invited to day 2.
Of course, so no need to write to us. If you will pass the first part, you will get an invitation to sit the test part 2, actually. So can you tell us more about part 2? Which are the tests, how it works, and so on?
Exactly. So once you are invited to day 2, and now we are in 2027 already, don't expect any testing before 2027. The second day actually will hold all remaining tests. And as you know, there are 3 more tests to be taken. There's the EU knowledge test, there's the digital skills test, and then there's the written test, the essay or the essay on an EU topic, as you may have read again in the notice of competition. So you sit these 3 remaining tests in your second day, again, not the same day, not the same time for everybody, but that will come in an invitation letter, of course. And once all these tests have been taken, your competition is finished. We then start scoring, and again, and I keep referring to the notice of competition, you will see that the different tests are weighted and count or do not count in the scoring. And we score in 2 phases. We have first what we call preliminary scoring, and then a second final scoring. In the preliminary scoring, the verbal reasoning score that you obtained in day 1 counts for 40%. So it's very important to score as highly as possible in this verbal reasoning test. The numerical and the abstract reasoning test does not, or the score on this test does not count in the overall scoring. So you just have to meet this threshold to get invited to day 2. But once you're there, the score doesn't count anymore. The EU knowledge test and the digital test count both for 30%. So 40% for verbal and 30% for EU knowledge and digital skills. This gives us an initial or preliminary ranking, right? Now, we'll start scoring everybody and ranking everybody. As you know, we need to select 1,490 successful candidates. After this preliminary scoring, we will take the batch of 1.5 times that number, meaning 2,235 people. And of that group, we start scoring the written test, which is the last test that you took, okay? Once we've done that, we also check the eligibility of all these people, these 2,235, and then we can draw up a final scoring. The weight changes a little. The verbal reasoning still counts for a lot. It counts for 35%. EU knowledge and digital skills will count for 25%, and the written test will count for 15%. And this gives us a final ranking, and then we end up with the 1,490 best ranked people, who are the ones that eventually end up on the list of successful candidates. That's how it works.
Yes, exactly. So basically, you don't only have to pass the test to reach the passing score. Overall, your performance matters. So you have to try to perform as well as you can, because there are 170,000 people that you're competing with. So try to prepare as well as you can.
Exactly.
Now that we clarified this, I think we can move on to the questions, right?
Sure.
So we have many questions regarding the supporting documents for work experience. So you mentioned that entries without supporting documents will not be considered, but at the same time, you state that work experience is not required. Does uploading these documents make any difference? Would you recommend submitting them anyway? Well, of course, I can take this actually. Of course, work experience is not required. So you don't have to upload supporting documents for your work experience, but you should upload supporting documents for your education, because you have to have a bachelor's degree, right? In order to be eligible for this competition. For the work experience, really, you don't have to upload your supporting document unless you want to. So it might make a difference at the recruitment stage. When the recruiters invite you to an interview and they see your CV there, and they will check your supporting documents. But us at EPSO, we will not check them.
Exactly. Then there are questions about the tests, I see. So I'll give a bit of more insights about these tests. First of all, can we expect them to be more difficult since they are split over 2 days? No, the level of difficulty is the level of difficulty for an AD5 grade competition. As you may know, we sometimes also publish competitions on higher grades, 86, 87, 88 sometimes. This is an AD5 entry-level competition. So the questions are on that level, meaning and this I may elaborate a bit on, not every single candidate will receive the exact same set of questions, because then, of course, people who sit their test at day 4, for instance, could have an advantage over people who sit them at day 1, and they could find out about questions. That is not an issue because we have a huge database of questions, and every single candidate receives a similar set of questions, similar as in a number of difficult questions, a number of average questions, and a number of easier questions. And throughout the years, we have learned which questions are difficult, average, and easier. And everybody gets a same or a similar set of questions, so that the level playing field is really equal. The time for the 3 reasoning tests is indeed different slots. So as I said, 35 minutes you get for verbal. If you have leftover time after your verbal test, you cannot take the leftover time for your numerical test or your abstract reasoning test. For instance, you start again with for numerical reasoning, it's 20 minutes, by the way, and for abstract reasoning, it's 10 minutes. You cannot interchange leftover times there. The thresholds are 10 out of 20, so basically you need to score 50% to pass from day 1 to day 2, but as Alina said, you'll need to score much more in verbal reasoning. Numerical and abstract reasoning doesn't really matter, you just need to score half the points there. But as said, verbal reasoning weighs a lot, so make sure to score really, really high and prepare really, really well there. You find a number of sample tests on our website in all possible languages, so try and get familiar with those questions on the website. And then many member state authorities offer guidance and training to try and help their citizens. So reach out to your member state authorities. You'll find the contact details on our website, and they might guide you in preparing you for this competition. Now let's see what other questions we have.
Maybe it's worth mentioning also that we will publish the materials for the EU knowledge test.
Yes, that's
beforehand.
A good point. Indeed. So for day 2, remember day 2, not for day 1, but in day 2, the first test you sit there is the EU knowledge test. Now, about 2 months prior to that testing date, to the testing date 2, we will publish material for you to prepare for this EU knowledge test. So basically, we send you a set of links to documents from which we draw the questions. So basically, this is study material, right? It'll be a lot. It'll be easily 500 to 600 pages because the EU covers a lot of policies, as you may know. In a way, this is study material, right? You can really prepare by studying this, and you have 2 months to do so. This material will be available in all 24 languages. So in whichever language you take this test, you will be able to prepare. And also all material will be accessible, so people with difficulties can have access as anybody else to prepare for this test.
Another question that popped up is about the single candidate portal. So people are having problems viewing their messages in the single candidate portal and asking who can assist them. And in our experience from the messages we've received up to now, we've realized that it's the people that have more than one EU login account that have problems in viewing their messages. So usually you have to make sure that you are logged in with the proper account. I mean, the account with which you applied for that specific competition. If you still can't log in, you can, if you still can't view your messages, you have to go to the contact section in the single candidate portal, and our colleagues will answer them. Submit your request, of course, and then our colleagues will answer all your questions.
Then I see a question about the calculator. So indeed, when you sit these tests in the online environment, you have access to an online calculator. You cannot use a physical calculator, but you have access to an online one. And indeed, of course, during the numerical reasoning test, you will have access to it, right? You can move it around even on your screen. You will see how this works. You also have a scratch pad, an online scratch pad, which you can use. So you can use both at the same time. You can move them around on your screen. So this is indeed a helpful tool to sit this kind of questions. And then there's a question about what determines which slot you will be allocated to. So as I said, we'll have a testing window which will stretch over several days, to test all these 175,000 people. Currently, you do not know yet if you will be tested on day 1 in this testing window or day 3 or 4. This will be clear when we send you the invitation letter. We are looking into how we will set these slots. Will it be alphabetically? Will it be by language? Will it be by citizenship? To be seen. Anyway, it doesn't really matter for you as a person. You all have the same chances to sit these tests and to be successful. So once you get your invitation letter, you'll know when you as a person sit your test. Maybe good to know as well is questions we get about languages. So you have given us 2 test languages when you applied back in February, March. These 2 languages are fixed. You can no longer change them. You cannot change the order. You can't say I would like to sit my reading skills test in my language 2 and the rest in language 1. No, these choices you made are fixed. Whenever you take part in another competition, when you apply again later on for future competitions, then you can again start from scratch in a way and choose another combination of EU languages. But for this competition, everything you have sent us in your application form is fixed and cannot no longer be changed.
Yes, exactly, and this applies to your CV as well, where you filled in the work experience, because we often receive this question: can I modify my application? Can I modify my work experience? And so on. You basically can modify your CV at any time in the single candidate portal, but you cannot modify your application for a specific competition once the deadline has passed. So
and actually, to compliment on this, that's very good that you said this, Alina, because indeed make use of this opportunity to keep your CV up to date in your account, because eventually, when the institutions start recruiting people from this list, they will look at that CV, of course, right? They will have access to the CV, so try and keep it as updated as possible. And there also you can mention your work experience, you can mention which languages, other languages you speak. So try and keep it as rich as possible. And once you are a successful candidate, you will have access yourself to a number of vacancies. You can then freely apply to these vacancies and use your latest CV, of course, to promote yourself in a way to secure a position with us.
Another question is about the results of the reasoning test. So when candidates get their results, will they know exactly how many questions they had right, or rather than just pass or fail?
Yes, so they will get the real points. So basically on 20 for the reasoning skills, and I have to actually scroll back. I think it's on for the reasoning skills test, it's on 20. For numerical and abstract reasoning, it's on 10 points. So you will get your score, and you will get a list of which questions you failed and which ones you got right, like numbered, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then correct or not correct. So you will see which questions were right or wrong. You will not see the content of the test item, so not the content of the question, but just a number basically. But you will know how many questions you did or not. And I see we have reached the end of this webinar already. Now, if you still have comments or questions, I mean, you can of course post them in this LinkedIn. We will address these questions in the next few days. So for now, thanks a lot, Alina, for sharing this webinar with me for this time. I hope you found it interesting. Stay tuned. As soon as we have updates on this competition, on the testing procedures or anything else on this competition, of course, we will notify you on social media and on the website. All the best of luck. Get prepared. As you have understood, preparation is key to be successful in this competition with so much competition, really, among all of you. So get ready. Use the summer to study a bit on the beach or at the poolside, and see you sometime in October or November for the first testings. All right, guys. See ya.
The best of luck. Bye.